Alô, Lisa, vamos só aguardar um bocadinho, está bem? Enquanto a sala enche.
Ok, ok. Eu vi aqui que estava a pedir para partilhar ao mesmo tempo que vocês, não era essa a
Ah, está
intenção.
bem. Não, não tem problema, não tem problema. Eu penso que a Olga explicou que Oi. Penso que a Olga na altura explicou que nós vamos falar em inglês, é ok, não é?
Sim, é tranquilo, sim.
Perfeito, perfeito, perfeito. Ok, Elisa, eh, nós vamos aqui iniciar do nosso lado.
Ok, vamos a isso.
Espera aí. Está a receber som aí? Estranho. E agora? Ainda nada? Consegues ouvir?
Eu consigo ouvir-vos bem.
Ok.
Não é para mim.
Não, era precisamente. Ok, então. Ok. Vamos falar em inglês porque está a ser transmitido, está bem? Espero que ninguém não tenha nenhum problema. Hi, good afternoon. We are here for the second session of Processing Community Day. Today we have a program that starts with a keynote, Lisa Moura. But before we start, I would like to thank the Centro Cultural Peneda da Saudade and the Department of Informatic Engineering and Department of Architecture for allowing us to host the event. Today we have a fuller program. We start now with a keynote. Then we have short presentations at 5. Then at 6 we will end in the best submission award. So we had a submission call for artworks, and after that we have an inauguration of an exhibition which is here at the Centro Cultural Peneda da Saudade. It will be here for roughly 1 month. And if you do not have the chance to see it today, you can always come and see it in another day. But for now, we start with Lisa Moura. So one might say that she is German and Portuguese, right? Because she has a family. She grew up on a farm with horses and a lot of GTA playing. Contributed to a quite eclectic range of references. She graduated in 2011 by the Fine Arts Faculty in Lisbon in communication design, moved to São Paulo, Brazil to work for almost 3 years with Fábio Prata, Flávia Nalon at PS2 Architecture plus Design. Graduated from the MA Spaces and Communication at Geneve in 2017, collaborated with MAT, Museum of Architecture, Art, Architecture and Technology, as it said, designer from 2020 to 2023, and now doubles in teaching as a guest tutor at ETIC Solent University. She's a graphic designer by passion, but an alien at heart, created in 2019 the independent magazine Alien Magazine and the studio Frau in Mond, as a nod to her love for science fiction. Lisa, if you want, you can now try to share your screen to see if everything is fine. And the
Yes.
floor to you.
Okay, thank you, first of all, for the invitation and for the challenge, because I haven't spoken about this most recent phase of my work, so it will be the first part might be a little bit more storytelling, and the last part will be somehow a mix of emotions at times. But so I hope you be nice with this with this train of thoughts and how things aren't always perfect when we talk in this sort of setting. So so I start here with a little cheeky three-chapter division. So first, we'll talk more about my path in information. So my formation as a designer, then what it is when I say that I'm an alien, um, and then this most recent phase, which is that of being a menace somehow. I'll talk you through all of this throughout, and I hope you like it or enjoy it. So first, as a designer, as João mentioned, I grew up in a farm in the west side of Portugal, in the middle of nowhere. So the closest house is one of those that you can see quite far away, actually, close to the Monte Junto, Serra de Monte Junto. I grew up in a family that is Portuguese and German. But well, I won't go too much into this, but mostly I grew up within my very German family in the middle of the countryside of Portugal. So things were always interesting to say the least. Um, and and so in 2008, I moved to Lisbon to study graphic communication design at Fine Arts faculty. And after studying, also being coming from a foreign family in Portugal, I always felt that I needed to see the world first. And so when the opportunity came to go to São Paulo, Brazil, this will date me a little bit because the opportunity came on Facebook. And at the time, I thought I was very much into the book Delirious New York, and I thought when I read about São Paulo, there was this mention of São Paulo being the New York of South America, and I thought this was okay, close enough. If I'm not going to New York, let's go to São Paulo, Brazil. I ended up staying there for almost 3 years, working at PS2 Arquitetura and Design Studio with Fábio Prata and Flávia Nalon. So as a 22-year-old, this was my first ever work, my first ever project that I started with there, which was the communication, signage, wayfinding, all of that for a museum, a new museum. So it was built from scratch, which is Espaço Olavo Setúbal Brasiliano Itaú, again in São Paulo. And this was as much as a defining moment, a moment that would define my path going forward, both for the most positive reasons, because I love working in this cultural field and with institutions, museums, etc., but also in the most traumatic, because I had one of the worst experiences with a curator, and so this was kind of a love-hate. This is still kind of a love-hate relationship, although now with a bit more of distance. I can weigh the positives way better, way much more than the negatives, but it was very, very intense. So it was an amazing challenge to be both discovering myself as a designer, as a person, going through Brazil almost on my own and being really totally immersed in the culture and really, really loving that and just challenging myself to the fullest in working from the 2D small scale format to space. Um, and while I was actually this project went, I worked on this project for 3 years. So since the beginning in 2012 until it opened in 2015. And while I was within the hallways um, in construction for this museum, I also did still one of my favorite projects, which was this book by Marina Abramovic. So the Portuguese translation for Edições Sesc in 2015, where I was really, really, really tired at the time, physically tired, but doing absolutely everything that I loved and still love today, which was working with space, graphic design in space, and editorial design at the same time. So after living for almost 3 years in São Paulo, the alluring idea of it being like New York, a big metropolis, kind of weighing down. And I really wanted the opposite and wanted something more idyllic and with fresh air. And so I really wanted to pursue my studies. So I decided to apply to a master's in Geneva, Switzerland. And that really completely um, molded my way of approaching projects. So at first I came from a very almost in a traditional sense from a graphic design course. Um, at the time, very much inclined to print design and to editorial design. And then during my time in Brazil, I could dip my toes into different projects, different settings, different ways of how graphic design could behave. And then during my master's in my master's spaces in communication, what I could see design behaving even in a different level, even more immersive than I was already um, working with in the museum sphere and cultural field. So I went to the reason I chose also this master's in spaces and communication, although now they've changed their name to design installation. Um, but at the time, the reason I chose firstly my bachelor's in communication design, and then in my master's in spaces and communication was mostly because of the word communication. So communication has always been kind of the driving force through which I go through with in my field in my practice as a designer. So here I had the opportunity of really working in a completely different way about this graphic aspect of installation design and immersive experiences, and also how I understood that I was more inclined into finding ideas, finding concepts, finding things to do, and then figuring out how to do it, than to really focus and honing in on a specific technique, so to speak. So that's why for the longest time, I was it was kind of difficult for me to say that I was exclusively a graphic designer or a communication designer or web designer at the time, whichever it was, because I really wanted to know a bit of everything and learning how to best bring projects come to life and how to bring projects and how to communicate most effectively. And therefore, I still nowadays I my practice I in my practice I say that I'm graphic digital space designer because I really don't want to limit anything that I do into one single format. So here you can see one project that I did at the time in response to the challenge of creating a Deus Ex Machina for whichever movie. Um, so I chose the movie Once Upon a Time in the West, and I wanted to save. I don't know if you're familiar with that movie, with that film, but I wanted to save the main character's brother from hanging, and therefore I created this sort of machine that could, um, when the guy fell, he would jump back up quite quickly with this device that I developed. Um, and so it was really, really interesting to jump from the 2D of the computer and really go to the carpentry workshop and get on the tools and start sanding, start cutting, all of that. There was this material aspect of developing a project that was really, really, um, yeah, that opened a new door for me in the way that I approached my projects from there on. There, I also had the opportunity of collaborating with some of my tutors, in this case, with Alexandra Midal. So I did the generic intro and ending credits to one of her movies, in this case, Possessed. And here's some quick workshops that I also developed. So usually we had from 1 week to 2 week workshops in which we developed a project of sorts. And in this case, I think I wanted to, even if I couldn't save this guy's Gilles van Ledenberg life because he hang himself again. I'm really with the hanging part. I'm not that creepy, I promise. Um, I developed a project that was kind of trying to save his soul for the future, kind of. I can go more in depth into it, but maybe we don't have that much time. But yes, so it was always very, very fast-paced masters, which was also challenging in the sense that we were always creating and developing projects very quickly, but then it would create also sort of kind of resilience in developing the projects. At that point, in my second year of masters, well, during my first and then second year of masters, we had obviously to develop our master thesis, and so I've started going back to my roots, so to speak, in the countryside of Portugal in a very German family setting. Um, I started understanding or tackling the fact that I never had felt that I belonged anywhere because as I don't know how many foreign or mixed people you have there watching. It was it was very alienating sometimes growing up in Portugal as someone who not always looks like a Portuguese person. So so I always had that feeling that while in Portugal, everyone treated me as a German, and only when I went to Brazil, people started treating me as Portuguese. And that really created here a sort of breaking point internally in understanding, okay, but what am I? Because I don't speak fluent German. I've always lived in Portugal, but never really was allowed to be Portuguese in the sense. And now people think and use Galo de Barcelos to when they speak about me. And that was really, really, yeah, to put, well, pardon my French, but it was really a mind fuck at that time. So I've started thinking about how these collective identities are created and how at that point, as a 25-year-old, um, for the first time ever, people used the Galo Barcelos souvenir to talk about me. And so in my master thesis, I've talked about this sense of belonging, on the artificiality of this sense of belonging and how it is a construction um, in which there are many artifices are used to create this sense of collective identity. But here I've focused mainly on souvenirs, and I've extrapolated to if I had spoken about my own personal experience or personal experiences throughout the world of people that feel that they don't belong, um, it might be again alienating to other people. So I used an artifice used sometimes by precisely by science fiction of using the moon or the outer space to talk about very earthly matters. And therefore, I started um, postulating about this idea of we having collectively created an identity of the moon and of people from the moon and about the moon. So in this case specifically, I focused on the souvenir of the paper moon and paper moon postcards specifically. And yes, so I've collected a lot of postcards and talked about how we've collectively constructed an identity, collective identity for the moon. So with this, so this was my master thesis, and then during my master's, we also had to, at the end, develop our master project. So that's when when I started using the term alien um, more consciously. Um, so it was during a discussion with my tutor at the time, Noam Toran, that I was talking about about these artifices used in science fiction, about my own personal experience of being out of place. And basically, he looked at me and said, "So you're an alien then?" And he said it in a cheeky way, but then I that stuck with me, and um, I started researching on the aspects of the actual word alien, and I've started playing around with the double meaning of the word alien. So especially in English speaking countries, alien is still used to this day in legal terms to define people that are from outside. So not necessarily or not only about the extraterrestrial creatures or monsters that we see in sci-fi movies or or books, but also as a term to define people that are just immigrant, even tourists. And I think this was also It's not by chance that this was developed in 2017, 2016, because this is the time Trump came of age, basically. Well, he never came, but whatever. So, so it's not by chance that at this time, the immigration aspect, the aspect of talking about illegal aliens and of building walls and all of that was very, very present. And therefore I've started playing around with this and decided, well, if aliens aren't welcome here, so let's go to our original place, which is outer space. And therefore, I've created this installation, which was called Alienation Parade Zero. And I've also made a film manifesto talking about this irony of us as aliens searching for our place, which is basically anywhere else but Earth. And and so I've built this. I've worked again as I was working before in my master thesis with these kind of canons, imagetic canons of totalitarian regimes that were always very nationalistic and working on nationalistic imagery. So this form was inspired by Padrão dos Descobrimentos, and other monuments that if you search throughout, you see very in almost every sort of totalitarian regime, this sort of imagery of ascension, of us going somewhere, also this extractivist and colonialist aspect of going somewhere and taking our land. And so this was kind of what I was hoping for, but for those who never belonged anywhere. And again, trying to put in check these nationalist and idealistic views of belonging. Um, and so from that, I've created an entire yeah um, idea around what it was to be an alien, but also very based on actual artifacts. So here you can see on the right actual documents where you can see legal documents that were made um, to expulse, well, to to send aliens away. Um, from that came the opportunity from uh, an exhibition from Philadelphia Museum of Art and the exhibition Designs for Different Futures. They became aware of my project also through Alexandra Midal, and so they challenged me to raise the alien flag in the stairway of Philadelphia Museum of Art. I don't know if you know the film Rocky. So you know the scene in which he goes up the stairs and then he's up there. So this while I was taking these pictures, people were with their phones listening to the Eye of the Tiger going up the stairs and the alien flag right on top of them. It's very significant to me that this was this was even made. So it's a very high point in my life, I have to say, because Philadelphia was also where the US signed their constitution. So the first semblance of the US being the United States of America was signed in this city, right at the end of this avenue. So it was very significant for me that the Alien magazine, sorry, Alien flag was raised there, and yeah, I don't know if anyone else pays attention to this, but it for me personally, it was very, 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 very important. So after all this, after finishing my master's, I've started thinking what comes next. No, I mean I've already raised my alien flag. So what comes after? So in that case, after also having worked therapeutically almost this fissure I had internally about belonging, I felt I could come back home. And at that point, Portugal was again my home. And that's when I also applied to a stipend to develop a project, and I've proposed creating Alien Magazine as a continuation of my master project. Um, and here I thought of the magazine as democratic means to spread the word about aliens. So the first and at this point only issue of Alien Magazine came out in 2019, and it was called Aliens of Extraordinary Ability, as a nod to a visa category that exists precisely in the US, which is called Aliens of Extraordinary Ability, and which allows people to go and work in the US because of their contributions to the arts, sports, science fields, and so people can be given this visa category. And I thought this was very interesting to think of aliens as extraordinary. And so I've I had an open call to so that people could send their contributions, and I've also commissioned this one specifically, this article um, about Superman, because yeah, he's the ultimate alien with extraordinary abilities, which started out as the story of two young Jewish guys in US in the beginning of the 20th century, being very bullied and yeah, targeted by anti-Semitism. And they've created the symbol of Superman as a way of, as an alien and as someone that protects the oppressed, and how it this then became 40 something years later, after these two young boys published the first idea of Superman. It became a symbol also in the all sorts of PSA communication by the US government during oppression of Japanese communities, and all of that. So Superman became the symbol of Americanism. So these were the things that I really wanted, that I had during my master thesis, researched, explored, and never really knew where to put those informations in. And then when I created Alien Magazine, they found a place as well. Um, Here again, so this is also another article about drag culture in Lisbon. This is a former colleague of mine from university, so it was very interesting to meet after I don't know how many years, and talk about this underground and this alien of extraordinary ability in that sense. So then I enter what I'm calling my phase as a menace. I'll explain a little bit better what I mean by this, well, what other people meant by this. But so during all of this, I had published Alien Magazine, and then I had just come from the exhibition in Philadelphia, and I received this email to join the team at Matt to as their head designer. Um, I've worked there for 3.5 years. There's so much work about it that I don't even know what to pinpoint to. So um, I'll just say that I got in with the challenge of prototyping the museum by Beatrice Leanza. She wanted to propose a new model for cultural institutions, and she felt also because of her background that design would be a useful method and tool even to do that. So she wanted to integrate a senior designer into the team, which was never done before at Matt. Of course, Matt had worked before with designers. That's really not that they were familiar, of course, with working with designers, but always as external elements to the team and not really integrated within the team discussions. And yeah, um, sharing blood, sweat, and tears with them every day in at the office. So that was really the challenge there to use the visual identity, which was commissioned to Barbara Say's studio, and make it work throughout in the coming 3 years, so from 2020 to 2023, and also during COVID, which was also very crazy, to say the least, because it was, although Matt has technology in its description, the entire digitization of the museum was still very archaic. So at that time, there was really the need to quickly find out how to be open without actually being able to open the doors because of COVID. And so at that time, I became even more valuable because I had these tools that I had been gathering before in coding and video mapping, video editing, and all of that really came to fruition all at the same time at MAT during COVID times. And using what I usually call the crayon box that Barbara Say's studio gave me as a visual identity, I could then paint within the lines, out of the lines. The lines at times didn't even exist. So it was a really, really all immersive experience for over 3 years. Because I know that I'm in a digital talking to a digital interested audience. I'm focusing here some projects that I've developed at the time. Um, so at that time, as I said, it was during COVID, mostly at the beginning, and there was this need to open the museum without being able to physically open the doors. So um, there was this need also of having a sister website or a sister platform to the main website that has more of the need to fulfill the ticket buying options to be more information to give all the information, useful information to visitors, um, and of the entire agenda or calendar of exhibitions, etc. There was this need and overproduction at times. Well, not over, but production of contents that never really had, again, a home. And so that's how Mat Extended came about, which is this twin sister to to the to the main Mat website. It is still online, although I know that it became one of the less important sisters or children at MAT. So now it's the maintenance is not the best, and so you might have some difficulties going through the website. But still, it was very important to have a place to lodge or to host all of these contents that were produced by curators, artists, and even the museum's team internally. And here was a space to have all that, to host also events at times during COVID. So it became a very important tool of access to the public. After Mat, again came another point of, okay, I've raised my flag, alien flag, at Philadelphia. I worked in a museum, which was one of my first ever dreams as a designer, was really to work directly with museums, what comes after. And that's when I went back to what I had started immediately before going to MAT, which was my studio called Frau im Mond, which is, I've taken the name out of a sci-fi film by Fritz Lang from 1929, based on a manuscript by Thea van Harbo. And and I thought, okay, I've decided to stay in Portugal. Um, my mom is not that happy that I never use my German surname. So how do I still talk about this double life, double citizenship somehow without having to say my middle name all the time? And so I've decided to appropriate the name, the German name of which is the original name of the film by Fritz Lang. And so I've decided to call my studio Frau im Mond. And yes, as Frau im Mond, I do a little bit of everything. And so I, again, considering I know that you were more from the digital realm of design, I brought here a website I've done recently with photographer Matilde Viegas. Um, so the website was, it's in a sense, it seems like a straightforward ask or medium, um, in the sense that it is a portfolio website. But how do you bring again an identity aspect to it? How do you, what can you bring beyond the just a simple mosaic view of projects? What can you bring from this person, this professional, to the website? So it was a very close conversation with Mathilde, and she really liked the fact that I, in my personal website, had an active element of play, and she wanted it in her website as well. So that's why the homepage, she wanted something that wasn't just a good picture, which she was and is confident that she can deliver, but she wanted a certain surprise element to it. And that's why I've played around with the focus aspect, because that's basically everything to a photographer, to ensure that even if you are working with something that is not focused, that it is intentional and that it is part of the imagery that they create. And so that's why the entire website has this aspect of blurring, of being unfocused at times. And also the colors was something that she also requested, so that she could bring and complement the pictures, her own pictures, with a different color palette other than the pictures themselves. Um, I've also been working in the editorial field, so here I'm showing the work I did with Contemporânea, which is a Portuguese magazine, mostly related to art. I've also brought another project that is very dear to my heart, which is Arquitetas da Liberdade, because it was very communal development. So it works on it was an exhibition. How do you say it? An exhibition that went itinerant. I don't know how to say it in English. So it went through a lot of places in Portugal, and so they wanted something that, and the exhibition was based on the communal aspect of building and housing and all of the housing crises, plural, that Portugal has been through, and how there were always so many and sometimes mostly women working on ensuring quality of living and housing to their families and communities. Yet we mostly know the architects, male architects, who signed some of the housing projects. And so this was a way of going against the invisibilization of women in the architecture field, and also of women in general in ensuring yeah, housing conditions for everyone. Right now, I'm collaborating with different institutions in the cultural field, mostly or almost exclusively. And here are a few things that I've been doing in the past few years with Museu Nacional de Arqueologia here in Lisbon. So this is not just a disclaimer, this is not the new identity for the museum. However, the museum felt the need during this time of PRR, in which they are closed for renovation for a considerable amount of years. They felt the need to communicate to their audience still. And so they've contacted me because I had developed a project before in which they were also involved, which was this catalog, Energias Perpétuo Movimento, with Matt. And yes, so by word of mouth, I came about to now having a fruitful collaboration with Museu Nacional de Arqueologia, and trying to fulfill this again, similarly to what I had with Matt at the start during COVID. I'm now communicating certain aspects of the museum while they are closed, and the challenges of that during this time. I've also worked with Museu Nacional de Etnologia, so I'm working both with art-related institutions, but also history-related institutions, which is something that I really, really enjoy, because it brings a certain different aspect about the graphic elements, and literally the history behind it, and how at times we have such amazing collections at our disposal that they basically are not seen, because at times the communication isn't as effective as everyone would have hoped. So I've been working on that aspect in very close relationship with the teams of different institutions. And yes, so here, as I mentioned before, there was this menace aspect that I don't want to air out here any complications with anyone, but this was something that Someone said a few months ago about the menace of design and how designers are left loose and just make mistake. Well, asneira. How do you say asneira? Well, what? Shit. Um, so, so this was someone that, in a sense, talked about my work specifically in that sense of design being a menace. When, as I said, I'm working now in the past couple of years very in a very close relationship with institutions that, although aren't conservative, or not everyone is conservative, there's still a very traditional conservative aspect of approaching a design project. And that's been my challenge in the past few years of trying to understand how can I ensure what they're asking of me without going back to the same traditional, or I won't even say mistakes, but habits of approaching a design project. And at that time when this article came about, talking about the menace of design and talking about me specifically, I felt very it wasn't, I didn't feel very well, because I don't feel as a threat at all. Um, Quite the contrary, I really, really just want to collaborate and work in tandem with the institutions and everyone I work with. And and then at the time, I became aware of this because some clients talked about it and ensured me, Lisa, you're nothing like that, and we are very, very happy with your work, and the work that we're doing together. But I started thinking about this aspect of threat and what it could mean, and why are certain people uncomfortable with design, maybe, or of design having a face somehow, and and how it relates to my practice specifically. And that's how I think I view myself also as an educator. So I'm now also a teacher, a tutor, and uh, I think I'm quite menacing in the sense that I always try to entice my students and certainly my clients, and collaborators and people I collaborate with, of thinking and of challenging themselves. My students even play around or mock me at times, because I always use the words, I challenge you, or Zafute, of thinking something different, or of thinking or trying something like this. So the aspect of trying is for me very, very important, which is kind of at the same, not at the same level, but it is here. You When you try, you risk, and that's how I think I've co-opted the aspect of being a menace, of being someone that tries to risk it at times. And yes, so this is me at the moment working in my studio, Frau im Mond, as a designer, still collaborating with cultural institutions mostly, but not exclusively, and being a teacher, and really, really enjoying my time at that. So yeah, so I've the menacing aspect of that is, I think I fuel it as an educator, and that's it. Thank you. I cannot hear you, but I can see her.
Yeah, sorry. Was a bit late in unmuting. Thank you for the lovely presentation. Do you have any questions in the audience? I have a few here online, but if anyone in person wants to ask a question, feel free to do so. In the meantime, I have a couple of questions here that were posted. So the first one I would like to ask, so regarding the Alien magazine, why did you never do a second edition? Why stop there?
Well, because it's sometimes a one-woman show, and and it's very demanding of time and energy and also financial resources. So I it's always in the works here inside, but I haven't had after Matt and after establishing myself in my studio, there will for sure come a second edition. I just need to 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 come up with the time, the resources, and but I'm always looking for people interested in collaborating with. So whomever asked, feel free to drop me a line.
I have another one. It starts as you've mentioned working with typically touchy social topics like drag and immigration. Has that affected the way you are perceived in the industry? If so, how?
Um, I don't, well, not negatively, I have to say, or at least if it has, it's kind of, well, using a drag artist's expression, it's water off a duck's back. But yeah, it has impacted, I think, positively because I think in whichever project, but specifically when working with cultural institutions, there's a level of sensitivity that is needed. Well, you always need to be sensitive with whichever client or project that you are approaching, but at times with cultural institutions, because they are working with very well with public fundings at times and very in tune with the public and their audiences. I think the fact that I'm aware and curious and sensitive to these socially inclined projects, I think helps me a lot in communicating with my collaborators and the institutions that I work with in their projects.
Okay. I have a third one. It starts as you have many projects that have a personal meaning or that have something to say to the world. How do you manage to do that in a freelance way outside of the academic world?
Yeah, it's not always easy, but and I'm a personally very reserved person, so work kind of ended up being my vehicle for communicating with people. And in a paying job, of course, I won't put my own personal emotions all over the place, but it ends up being sometimes inevitable. I even with my more commercial projects or yes, projects, I'm I have people sometimes being quite surprised by the fact that the references that I bring into the projects being very ending up being very personal in that sense. So it's not, I'm not saying that I will stamp my name onto everything or having a style or an authorship view to every single project that I do, but the fact that I'm a person makes it become inevitable that it comes up at times.
Okay. We will have to move, but I have one final provocation for you. So, what
Okay,
suggestion would you have to other aliens in the room or wherever?
join in. Let's do this.
Okay, thank you once again for the amazing presentation. And I
Thank
now
you.
pass on the floor to Ricardo, who will share the
Hi, Lida.
presentation.
Hi,
Thank you very
hi.
much once again.
Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. I'll be brief. because we are running a little bit late on schedule. So the idea is to have now a short presentation session. This session is we'll have three authors and collectives of authors that will talk a little bit about their artworks that are on the TechFolk exhibition that it will be inaugurated here at 6:30 p.m. after this session. And so I will move to, for us to not lose any time, I will move to the first presenter, who is Taibao Nguyen. Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
Hi.
Well, let me start by thanking to Taibao because due to the time zone difference, I believe for him it will be around 1 a.m. at night, right?
Yeah, it's 1 a.m. now.
He's making a terrible effort to be here, so special thanks to you, Taibao. So let me just very quickly introduce him. So Nguyen Taibao is an artist born in Hanoi, Vietnam, currently studying in China, and his work is called Reimpression Water Lilies, a video projection that employs cellular automata as algorithmic looms, weaving temporal dialogues between Impressionism and Eastern philosophy. So now the stage is yours, Taibao. You can
Let
project.
me share my screen.
Do you need any permissions?
Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes, we're seeing it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. So, hi everyone. First of all, let me briefly introduce again myself. My name is Bao, a Vietnamese artist and designer currently taking a master program in intermedia art at China Academy of Art. And besides that, I'm also working as a creative coder, graphic designer, and illustrator for studios remotely in Vietnam. And my research now is focusing on how new technology, especially AI this day, can shift the way we view the traditional heritage and use that perspective for their art practices. And today I'm bringing a very short presentations about cellular automata as cultural translations, Vietnam Impressionist inheritance in the age of AI as a research background for my works, Reimpressions, Water Lilies, Water Lilies. So first, for the historic background, in 1925, the Indochina School of Fine Arts was found in Hanoi under the French colonial rule and shaped the scene of Vietnamese modern art. Its curriculum crucially introduced the Impressionist sensibilities to students by the French instructor. Its students include Vietnamese famous artists such as Tô Ngọc Vân, Lê Phổ, and Lương Xuân Nhị, who you can see here in the left corner pictures. These artists borrow the fresh styles of Western paintings to depict ordinary Vietnam's lives and promoted these French modernist aesthetics over other styles, thus inspiring the pioneer young artists in their formative years who would go on to establish a new stream of modern Vietnamese art. Impressionist and post-impressionist elements, such as the brushwork techniques, the live drawings, and open-air paintings, and sensibilities towards color, would find their way into the works of the Vietnamese painters, often blend with multicultural traditions and theme. And as you can see here, some examples of Vietnamese art under that influence, which are very different from the traditional Vietnamese aesthetics, as you can see here in the slide, but we can go back to it later. So my question was, go back to a time when it all began. What would it be if the Impressionism itself were absorbed rather than a sensibilities, but like a subject matter, which can be viewed through the lens of a local sensibilities? The local here I want to emphasize is not only the materialist surface, but the way the local people think and the thoughts which correspond to the way they live and create. According to that, I digging into the traditional Vietnamese folk visual arts, and I found the ngũ hành, or the five elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, are recurring symbolic motive commonly seen through the color used in the arts. We Vietnamese use our own nature as a pigment source of our colors. The five elements were the combinations of both Eastern philosophy and the local natural conditions. Through that lens, so how to make the toolkit to execute the new visuals, which I name the meta-impressionisms. We already locate the original impressionisms as subject matter. So there are two problems left to be solved. First, what is the symbolic scheme of it? And secondly, what are the materials to paint it like the traditional tools are for painting the folk arts? To answer the first questions, the Impressionist paintings focus on capturing the fleeting moments. So how might a sinospheric culture like Vietnam absorb this Western concept? I think the answer lying in the Vietnamese philosophy of times. The Satna Phu Thường, or the perpetual instancy, means each small moments of life already contains in itself the full cycle of life, birth, aging, illness, and death. And in Vietnamese, it's a sinh lão bệnh tử. So there's one problem left. So by what do we deploy this abstract symbolic scheme to depict some concrete subjects like the Impressionist paintings? To answer these questions, I want to cite the quote by Seymour Chapman, in which he mentioned the importance of non-human narrative agency. In my work, I explore the cellular automaton under the concept of paintbrush. Cellular automata are the grid-based computational models where simple local updates rules generate complex and emergent patterns over time. On the other hand, in these recent years, we observe the rapid development of generative AI as a concept engine, a system of generating, recombining, and pressure testing conceptual directions, titles, metaphors, and framings. I treat it as a procedural brush, a rule-based device for mark making, while AI as a concept engine. The vibe coding binds them into the single practice, a conceptual brush in which modifying rules can be attached with modifying meanings. So with the concept already accomplished by answering the above two questions, I first elaborate the famous cellular automaton program Game of Life by Conway, with the Western original two states of life and death into the Eastern four states of life, using four Chinese characters, which are also an important part of Sinospheric Vietnamese culture. This is the working process where I experiment with the different sets of parameters to curate which behavior are perfect fit to form the tips of the conceptual brush. And for the subject matter, the life cycle cellular automaton was presented to Claude AI, which I used at that time, requesting the reimaginations and repaint of the Water Lilies series by Claude Monet, the godfather of Impressionisms. The process was done in two layers. The first one generate algorithms deploying this symbolic scheme of four-state rules, and the second translate into visual elements, as you can see in the diagram I draw in the slide. So after the process was done, there are the example outputs. These outputs really amaze me by the way they interpret the subject matter. Each element in the water lilies was interpreted not in a normal way. In some, the lilies are birth, but in the other, they might be illness. The disease has killed the water. Now the water as the old age and rising from the birth of light and varieties of other poetic possibilities. These are the other results which I include in the final video works. So through my work, I aim to experiment the framework of practice, utilizing AI-based conceptual brush as a means of cultural translations. In the age of AI, memory is not just a read-only state, but a rewritable one, constructing culture as a progressively open dialogue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I think we still have time for one or two questions. I don't know if anyone in the audience here on site has any question to make. Okay, so I have one question. So when we were looking to your artwork, the first thought was that it was a triptych, right? A group of 3 videos.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you what is behind this conceptual choice? Why 3 or why not 2 or 4 or 5?
The three screen is I think there's no other choice of 2 or 4 because the first one I want to return to the concept of four-state rule cellular automata, the birth, the aging, the illness, and death, which is very important to create the concept. And in the middle screen, I use the first screen to draw the third screen. So they have to have all three in the scene so that we can see all the interpretations and the how they stand together and make the meanings.
Okay, thank you very much. So if we do not have any more questions, I think we will proceed to the next presentation. Thank you once again, Taibao. Okay. So now it's time to cross the Atlantic toward the shores of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And I think we have here João Bonelli, Nilton Gamba Jr., and Isabella Zemit, and also Nara Moraes. Are you here, guys? Okay.
Yes, we are.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
So, oh, yes, João, please.
No, you
I was
were
I was
introducing us.
just giving a brief presentation of your artwork that we have here at Talk Folk, and then move the words to you. Okay. So now, just to say that they work together on Antropocruzo, another artwork here on display. And Antropocruzo was developed at PUC Rio's Art and Design Department in collaboration with the Grand Rio Samba School. It draws from their 2025 parade and merges traditions with computing, reviving and reshaping communal narratives. Many things here involved. So without further ado, I pass the word to one of you. I don't know how you
Yes,
want to manage the presentation, but
I will start. And thank you very much, João. We have the same name. And first of all, I would like to say that it's a big pleasure and honor to be here presenting to our Portuguese friends. Even though we are presenting in English because we love the Portuguese language. So if I could just say a word or two in Portuguese. Muito obrigado, nossos amigos portugueses. por estarmos aqui. And we will then present the Antropocruzo installation. We can go to the next slide. And just to introduce ourselves, we are a group of researchers, professors, and students, undergraduate and postgraduate students from the Catholic University of Rio de Janeiro, PUC-Rio, from the Department of Arts and Design. And Nara here Nara is part of our team, and she's not fluent in English, but we thought it would be adequate for her just to say hello, just a quick word in Portuguese, if you don't mind. Nara is here.
Sim, sim. Me ouve bem?
Sim.
Escuta. Tá.
Yes, yes. Ouvimos, sim.
Boa tarde para todo mundo. Desculpa aí a barreira linguística, mas meu nome é Nara. Eu sou estudante de graduação em design na PUC e esse projeto ele fez parte do meu segundo ano de iniciação científica como PIBIT no Laboratório de Design de Histórias, que é o laboratório DIS coordenado pelo professor Gamba. E é um trabalho que parte de pensar uns desdobramentos, né, para o projeto de oficinas de extensão que acontece desde 2019, em parceria com o Carnaval de Escola de Samba. E essa exposição Antropocruz, ela surge ano passado como um exercício de documentar e propor de uma forma interdisciplinar a experiência pós-desfile, né? Então, Bonelli e Isabela vão assumir a apresentação em inglês, mas queria dizer que é um prazer estar aqui também para acompanhar esse trabalho com vocês. Obrigada, gente.
Muito obrigado, Nara. Thank you very much. And just to say a quick word that Gamba, unfortunately, Gamba Jr., he wasn't able to be here today, so it's the three of us. We will be representing him. And okay, so we can go to the next slide. Just a quick presentation of our school, our department. So it's the Department of Arts and Design at the Catholic University of Rio de Janeiro. And we are very much focused in learning and teaching design through its practice. So it's our practical labs environment is very much important in our daily activities. We have a number of labs dedicated to graphic design, product design, fashion design. And especially this project was very much, we can go to the next slide. This project was developed a lot, a big part of this project, which is relevant here, was developed at the Life Lab, where I'm the supervisor, which is the Interaction Design Lab at PUC-Rio. And we have been participating in the processing community days for some times. We participate in all of them, but especially we have hosted the PCDs Rio 2019 and 2020 in Rio de Janeiro. So, and when we saw the Tech Folk call, we just thought it would be a great opportunity to connect with you, our Portuguese colleagues, and with the broader processing community, and also to show the work that we have been developing that connects so much with the Tech Folk team. So we can go to the next slide. And also this project, as Nara said, specifically, this project is a collaboration between our department and the Federal Institute and the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro with the Acadêmicos da Grande Rio Samba School, specially developed in the Design de Histórias Research Lab, where Gamba Jr. is the coordinator and Nara works closer with him. She works close with him in his narrative design research lab and research group. And since 2019, they have been collaborating with the Samba schools. developing a series of workshops for interdisciplinary workshop with the carnival artisans from the samba schools in order to develop the carnival parade for the Grande Rio Samba School. And then now I'm gonna pass the microphone to Isabella. She's Isabella in our group. Isabella is the person closer to interaction design and to programming and to the processing development together with me. And she was the person responsible for the programming and development of the installation.
Okay, so I'm looking this way because I have two monitors, okay? So to talk a little bit about the process, I would like to start talking about the mask specifically, which was a very important component of the Samba School Parade of 2025. They used the mask as as part of the costumes. So we experimented with lots of shapes and background colors for the mask. We tried it in brown and yellow backgrounds, and also different shapes. As you can see, this nose here is very pointy, and those initial tests were very important for us to understand how light would hit the shapes. So we ended up with this basic white background mask and tinier nose, but very strong facial features like arched brows and cheeks and an open mouth. So we knew we wanted the public to interact with a mask like this. For the experience itself, we are using an Arduino circuit connected to a software, a Java software that we, of course, programmed using processing. They talk to each other via Firmata. I'm sure many of you know Firmata, which is a way of communicating those two fields. So the software, the computer talks with the external world through push buttons. In our case, we have 4 buttons to select the color, and this button right here, which erases the drawing and restarts it, and also saves the artwork, which you'll see is very important for our work here. I'm going to show you some outputs. Also, we have a potentiometer here, which increases or decreases the size of the brush. And one of the first tests we ran was adding a canvas with no background. So this is a test many of us do when we start experimenting with processing. So we knew we wanted the brush to go where the mouse was. So this was a way we found to do it simply and fast to test. So as I said, we tested a lot with the shape of the mask and the facial features and the colors, especially because we were using projection, and projection involves lighting. So a lot of factors came into consideration for this work, like the distance between the projector and the mask, the height between one element and the other. Also, the size of the projector was something we tested. So we tried using a smaller projector to make our lives easier, but ended up needing a larger one at the end. So here you can see we are testing the mask with the pointier nose, and you can see it creates a huge shade where the person cannot draw. So this was something we had to take into consideration. For the exhibition itself, this work is part of a larger work, which is an exhibition that showcases the workshop results and the Samba Parade costumes. And one of the items of this exhibition is our installation. So this is the final work we ended up with. We have beautiful buttons on this part of the work. Arcade push buttons to select the color, a finalize to end the drawing. This is a knob that you can turn to select the brush size, and the interaction itself happens through a graphic tablet that we had already available at the lab. The pen itself only works for the drawing. It has no erase or undo. And you'll see why this is important soon. So this is an overview of the experience itself. So the visitor would interact with the totem here, always looking at in front of him to see the mask. The drawing happens live on the mask. And when he hits the save or end button, which is the same button, his artwork would go to a gallery wall. So this wall right here, it's a digital projection. You can see here other people interacting with the work and other artworks. So as you draw and press save, we would print your work at the gallery, and next drawings would replace the older ones. So we always had this amount of drawings on the wall. This is a close-up of the experience. And now why it's important to have a save button. As users would interact with the project, we would save their artworks when they hit save. So now we have hundreds of results of digital masks that people created spontaneously. And I think this is one of the nicest things, the coolest things about this project, not what we did ourselves, but everything that came from the experience and how the visitors interact with it and expressed their creativity. Here's an overview of the gallery. Some people would sign their names or try to write stuff. Some people did very intricate, detailed mask designs, or would just fill up the space with the available colors. As you can see, the colors don't mix, they just sit on top of each other. So this is a very simple experience, but at the same time, it has a lot of meaning because of the theme we talk about and how important, how big Carnival is in Rio and in Brazil in general. So I also brought a very quick video. I believe we still have time. It's a 2-minute video, and it showcases the process. I'm going to hit play soon. It's a very short video that showcases the parade itself and the process of the workshops and our process to develop this experience. It's really nice because it plays the parade song, so you can feel like a little bit inside of this context. Please let me know if the sound doesn't go through. Can you hear it? No? Okay,
No,
I'm gonna
Isabella,
try.
currently we can't hear it.
I'm gonna try something else. Can you hear it?
Still
No.
anything? Sorry. I don't
I'm going to interrupt the share and try to share it again in a different way. I believe this will work. Yes? No? Well,
We can do it without audio. It
okay,
will be
let's
available in
go.
next
Okay,
edition.
okay.
anyway.
Okay.
Probably the best solution because I can't see what we may do.
Okay.
I can hear some birds. I don't know if it's
No.
okay.
Barco o vento pelo mar soprou e da Turquia um adeus se fez. Belas princesas são das águas do Oriente.
our side.
Okay. So we ended up hearing the video perfectly. It had a little bit of lag, but the good news is that this video will be on display at the exhibition, so everyone here can move to that space and process the video perfectly. So I have already two questions here. Can you hear me, Isabella, João? Okay. Okay. So the first question is, what were the references behind your project? I'm guessing the person is talking about conceptual references or cultural references. I don't know.
I think Nara would be, it would be great if she answered. Would it be okay if she answered this question in Portuguese?
Yes, I think we can make that exception. No problem.
Thank you, because she was closer to the conception of the parade, Nara.
Sure.
Sim. A inspiração desse ano, o enredo do carnaval desse ano, foi inspirado no estado do Brasil, que é o Pará, e na cultura paraense. Então, o enredo parte de uma pesquisa sobre uma manifestação cultural que é o Carnaval das Águas do Pará. E essa manifestação a gente vai pesquisando tanto a tecnologia da produção dessa máscara, né, de papelagem, de cola, de como eles fazem, como as questões estéticas por trás, enfim, que representa essa manifestação, né? Então a gente traz ela para o carnaval não como uma cópia, mas como uma alegoria e uma homenagem a esse estado e a essa cultura.
Ok.
Então é basicamente isso, assim.
Obrigado.
É muito conversado com os carnavalescos, no sentido de que eles vão alinhando a pesquisa deles junto com o projeto que a gente está fazendo dentro do barracão. Espero que dê para ter entendido a minha
Sim,
resposta.
sim. Obrigado. We have another question. So a part of the students in the audience are currently starting to learn about Arduinos. What this technology is this technology is easy to manipulate in this project, or you had technical difficulties on the way? What would you say to a first start use of Arduino?
Isabella, do you want to answer?
Okay, I thought you were going. Okay, it's not. I mean, for me, it's harder to use the Arduino than the software to build the software itself. But even for me, that have this difficulty, the circuit is very simple. So we have 3 buttons and a potentiometer. So you can see that even with one button, if you had one color and one save button, it would be possible to create this experience. So I think what I'm trying to say is you can start small if you feel like the technology might be complicated, but Arduino in general is not complicated. There's a lot of tutorials online. It's made for prototyping. It doesn't catch fire, so it's okay if you mess up and the wires disconnect, you can just connect it again. I think it's safe to use, it's fast.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll proceed to the final presentation. Thank you once again, João, Isabella, for your collaboration, and also Nara. And if you'd like to stay on the call for the announcement of the Best Submission Award, okay, thank you very much. So the final presentation in this session will be made by a duo of artists, Sebastian and Denise. I think they are here on the call. Sebastian, Denise, are you here?
Yes, we're here.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, hello. So just another brief presentation. Sebastian Durand and Denise Padron Benitez were born in France and Sweden, respectively, and contributed to the tech folk with Fursu, which is most of all an experiment in self-projection into the cyberspace and interactivity between the inner and the outer, the flesh and the screen. Okay, so hi Sebastian, hi Denise, once again. The stage is yours. You can start your presentation. I don't know if you have slides to show.
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for having us, and thank you for the previous speakers. It's really interesting to listen to, and I feel like there are some overlaps here. So I'm going to share my screen. Hang on. Slideshow. There. Okay. So. Hello. Okay, there we go. So yeah, me and Sebastian, we've been collaborating since 2023, and we come from, well, we had a lot of overlaps when we met in terms of art and aesthetics. I come from a background of video making, photography, and poetry, and you come from a background of sound, also image making and animation. And we decided to start this project, which is called Exercitia Spirituale Anime, which is a triptych of work. They're kind of freestanding essays. I'd like to think about them. So the first one, it starts from a dreaming, it goes to consciousness, and then we go into the shadows. The first we can see there, it's called Dreaming of Hephaestus, which is where we kind of set our aesthetic preferences. It's a live cinema, live score performance where we took the myth of Hephaestus, the Greek myth, as a starting point, and then we were imagining performing his dreams. And one thing that's really important for us when we collaborate is to find non-linear ways of telling a story and to experiment with the idea of mythology and digital media. So with this, after this performance, we decided we wanted to work more with our body. We wanted to find other ways to break up the story and to work with interactivity. So thus the second chapter, which is what is going to be shown at the exhibition, it's Fersu, and Fersu, it's the Etruscan root of the word persona. So here we wanted to work with the self, the identity in relation to the others, in community, in communication. And we began to then think a lot about the online avatars, the possibilities that the digital and the online gives to self-creation and self-presentation. So also where we started from an idea of alchemy, which was very important, together with masking and unmasking. So do you have anything to add?
Yeah. So because, yes, we were focused on this mask and identity building process, by looking back into the past, we realized how important was alchemy before psychology, and was actually the foundation of modern psychology, because it relied on improving yourself through a certain amount of experience to shape your identity, to explain how you become someone.
Yeah, and also different reactions to different elements. So we use that as a metaphor a lot. And with these ideas, and also our interest in Greek philosophy and Greek mythology, we were searching for a residency to go to Greece, which we found through the Spanish organization ADK, who offered a residency in the Peloponnese, where we went in the winter of 2024. And the theme for this was expanded spaces.
Yeah, so expanding space was perfect for us to imagine how to project a location or ourselves into the virtual. And so during this residency, we gathered, we recorded, and we scanned these locations. We had discussion that we tried to make it the most productive possible, the most creative possible. And so we started to think of this as a collection of experience, but also a collection of questions regarding what is identity, how identity is shaped, and also what is the connection with this Peloponnese. So we realized that an ecosystem and a forest like the Peloponnese can be discovered through many layers, just as a human can be discovered through its element, through a river, through a pass, through its cloud, through its weather, etc. And so everything started to be more clear when reading the location like this and trying to transposing these questions into our own work about consciousness.
We have one more. Oh, yeah, and as Sebastian said, we were recording, and this is really a collection of many different types of media. So with field recordings, we had a DV camera, 35mm photography, sketches, animations, leaves. We were really trying to gather as much as we could with all the possible tools we had available. So, and then we came to also following this idea of expanding a space. When we were there, we realized that we wanted to give this project a digital space. And you want to talk about this?
So we started to craft with many tools, with different tools, and we weren't very happy about like the limitation that we had with already built tools. We tried some already ready-to-use platforms that provide you easy to do HTMLs or JavaScript, but it was very limited. We realized that we were stuck and constrained to do things in a way. And so this led to many questions. And the project became more and more a conflict with that the human being has with the internet also. We realized that internet, which from our generation was something particularly free, became more and more owned. And we were facing the reality that to make our work, we had to start from scratch and build everything ourselves. So that's what we did. So, for example, we started to think about the geography and how mapping was such a thing to transpose ideas into a kind of navigation that we are used to. But we wanted to reinvent it the way we can use a map. For example, this map was originally coming from Google. It's basically the Google Earth map of this region of Nea Libera in Greece that we integrated into a 3D system in WebGL, and on which we added a cloud of text about different meteorological concerns and issues.
And cloudy.
Yeah. That we figured out during this residency. So it was a way to inject ideas into new form of navigation and much more. It became also quite a labyrinth to work with.
Yeah, this is an overview of this labyrinth-like website, which we it's really been a key word when we've been working, is to work with hyperlinks and to put visible and invisible links to really encourage people to not just be a spectator of the website, but to really, I don't know, engage with it, open it up, see where you can click, scroll, type, look, right click. And this was such an exciting part to imply into this idea of a non-linear narrative, to create a story that can be read crossways in multiple ways, and yeah, to really deploy the digital, the World Wide Web as it is, to create this woven narrative, always thinking about different ways of presenting and playing with the identity.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And this is the start. This is the entrance of the website. Do I put it this way? So it's a labyrinth, but it has 3 different pathways that we operated from. Which at the sky you will find the expanded hours, in the forest in the middle you find the Laconian avatars, and at the bottom in the water is Orpheus, and these works as kind of the main stems in this very organic structure.
Yes, there are 3 complementary parts which deals with 3 ways of abording problems or issues that we develop into this website. So basically this website is made of several pages that all has a description, an explanation, just like when you go into a museum and you look at a picture, when you look at a painting, you have a description of it, like something that can help you to outline the idea. So every page in this website are normalized to help viewers to understand what they are actually looking.
Yeah.
And this is the base of the path.
Yeah, and now we will show you some example pages out of these 30 pages we made. Yeah, there's also to say that we have integrated 3D navigation into this as well. In the bottom, the last, how to say, of this landscape in Orpheus, we really wanted to put ourselves as avatars into this experience and try to use our bodies in this digital way. I think this is what we can see. And here are some examples of the aesthetics that we were looking for. So to the left, there's the Avatar Star poem, which is a screensaver travel and a conversation in the ether, together with these more tactile images and videos that we integrated, all which is interactive in one way or the other. And then we created the personality test, which is a e-poetry generator at the end. It's one way of getting to know yourself, which is found in this system. This is a screenshot of one of the 3 parts, the Laconian avatars, which is an imaginative desktop operating system, where we created, we basically put a lot of our writings, the emails, the images. There's a link to a chat room there, so it's great that there are more than 1 screens in the exhibition. You can go in and you can chat with each other, together with stories, fragments displayed there.
Yeah. So we can see all this like as a bit as a documentary fiction. It's always in between documentary, what really was seen into this residency about this region and identity. But there is a part of fictitious emails, fictitious like poem that blends this reality with the more imagined future. This page is a collection of Google search image results using only first names. So basically, we compiled 130 approximately names that were quite relevant in the modern world. And we compiled like these 4 rows of Google search results, which gives like an impression of, yeah, it's kind of dialectical. It's kind of talking with through this crowd, tell something about what names became in the internet world, for example.
Yeah, and this is a homage, a remake of a work by a French artist, Jan.
Jan van der Kruisen.
Yeah. And then we have also looked at the identity, the actual identity that you often need to operate in the world these days. And we made a stenograph readings of them. I'm going to speed up a little bit. Again, this is also this page, The Ocean Drop. We've taken a quote by Rumi, and we have looked at the syntax of different
waves,
different languages to say it, thinking about the English as being this junction, or the internet being this junction where we all kind of meet, not only in our native languages but in English. And I think that was all we had. Yeah, this was the this was the presentation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, I hope you heard the applause. You had many claps here on the room on site. I have just one question here. So you said you made. Can you hear me perfectly? Okay.
Oh, good.
You said you made 30 pages, 30 web pages, and the question is, could there be more in the future? And if so, where will the project end? Do you look at Verso as somehow a perpetuous project or something like that, an infinite loop?
That's a really good question, Ricardo. That is also, I think for now, at some point we said, okay, not after this date, we're not adding more ideas. And then we added more ideas. I think what is good about it is that it's a world making and it's kind of infinite in that way. And also, I guess with all art projects, eventually you also have other interests that you want to work on, and it's nice to have something finalized. But I guess it's gonna stay in between. I don't know. What do you think?
And
Yeah,
throughout the time of the exhibition here, should we expect surprises in the middle of the month? New additions?
Could be.
Not that much, but
Yeah.
maybe some really very little. Not that much. No, I think we got a structure already, and
Yes.
we want to finish it.
There's already have a lot to deal with.
Yes.
It will be. Thank you very much, Sebastian and Denise.
Yeah,
And I would like to, okay, I would like to ask to the audience another round of applause to all the presenters. So thank you all once again for your collaboration. It's a privilege to have your artworks here with us at Tech Folk Exhibition. And now to close the session, we will announce the Best Submission Award. And to present the award and representing the Department of Informatics Engineering, I would now like to invite Professor Tiago Martins to the stage. Good luck to everyone.
Peraí, deixa-me só partilhar o ecrã. Eu vou fazer isso.
So, hello everyone. I'm presenting this award on behalf of the Department of Informatics Engineering. And without further ado, the best submission is the project Pursue by Sebastian and Denise. Congratulations. Okay. What should I do now?
Well, thank you.
Again.
Bye. Sorry, we have to do a chair switch. Okay, where is my camera? I don't know. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, Denise, Sebastian, do you have anything to say?
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, makes me very happy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Because it's been a 1 year, 1 year and a half that we are working on this. It's the first time it's exhibited, and we are really glad that you liked it. And it's a great news for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And also, I want to congratulate the other nominees for your amazing work. Thank you very much. Now we will close the session and we will move to the inauguration of the exhibition. We will try to document the exhibition as best as we can for you to have photographic evidence of the existence of your artworks here at Coimbra. And so thank you very much and see you.
And
Thank you very much, my friends. Congratulations. It was a pleasure. So sorry not to be there. We would love to be there. And looking forward to the success of the exhibition.
you can join us. We will be doing a live session in Instagram. On Instagram, so
great.
if you have the Instagram of Processing Community Day, you can join us.
Yes. I'll be there.
Yeah.
No, it will be great.
See you in a
We'll be
bit
there.
then.
Thank you. Bye.